All right. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Live with the Organizer Coach. I am Tammy O'Neill, and I am the Organizer Coach. I work with the brain-based challenges population, and I'm also a certified ADHD coach. Tonight, we have a special guest, Debby Rogers, who is also a professional organizer, but she has pivoted and gone in to become a collectibles advisor. And Debby and I have worked together on several projects, and I was just amazed at her wealth of knowledge. Anytime I have contacted her to ask questions about a client's item or items, she just responds so quickly, and she does a research on to find out what is the best value for the client. So I'm going to hand it over to Debby and just let you know that she is definitely, I'm really excited to have her on the show tonight so she can share her wealth of knowledge with us. Debby?
Hi, thank you so much, Tammy. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we've worked together on a couple of very interesting projects, and all of my projects are interesting actually because people have their things, their collections, their one-off items, and they just are at a loss as to what what they should do with them, if anything. They don't even know if they have value or not. So this has been a really such a fun and gratifying and just a great way to help people figure that out. I started doing this during the pandemic, actually, when we weren't working, and I thought I was never going to work again because the world was ending. And I had an opportunity to join a group of other professional organizers across the country that were being mentored by a gentleman named Charles Tinsley of the Keys Guild. And he took a group of about 7 of us, and every week we'd have a Zoom call and we would learn different things about coins and gold and silver and art and glassware and just different little typical things that we find in homes that have been collected over the years. And we did that for 6 or 8, 10 weeks during the COVID. And then when we opened back up again, I incorporated that knowledge and that ability to help people with that knowledge into my organizing business, and then eventually spun it off into its own business. So it's just been just a great way to supplement my organizing as well as helping my clients in a different way than just organizing their things, and helping other organizers like yourself to help their clients. So it's really been fun. I've always had an interest in antiques and in old things. My home is filled with things I've collected over the years, and I've always gone to antique stores and estate sales and things like that. So it's a very natural thing for me to launch into, though I never would have dreamt I would have this as part of my business. So it's been really fun. I prepared a little presentation to help kind of walk us through what it entails, what collectibles advising is. And I'm going to share my screen. There we go. And this will just help keep us on track, right?
Okay.
Keep me on track anyway. So I think, Tammy, you told your audience, how much is your stuff worth? So we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. But I wanted to introduce myself. Tammy already has. Debby Rogers. My collectibles advising business is called Precious Goods Brokerage, and I am a member of the Keys Guild, which is the first type of organization to help collectibles advisors. The Keys Guild provides us with a vast amount of resources as far as experts in the field of like Asian art, artwork, just almost any type of collectible that I come across. If I can't find the answers, I have a resource through the Keys Guild that I can send that item to and get the answer for. So it's just a great kind of a backbench of help for me that just kind of sits there quietly until I need it. And it's also a great community, much like any professional association like NAPO for organizers and other groups that we join to help us in our careers.
Wonderful. It's always nice to have that in your back pocket, I think, too, especially when you're working with clients that you don't know, what the value is. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. So Tammy, you're working with clients and you know this more than anybody, 54% of Americans are overwhelmed with clutter. And this is a statistic that has been gathered from NAPO members. And this is our local Dallas chapter. And there's our friend Tammy right there on the left of your screen. So we all work with that clutter in different ways. And sometimes that clutter is a part of the collectibles that people have gathered over the years. And 78% have no idea what to do with it or find it too complicated to deal with. Sometimes it's just a couple of items, sometimes it's a whole house worth, and you just don't know what to do with it. You don't know where to turn. This is an example of a shrunken skull's head that one of our members found in a home. So he had to research what to do with this is a real shrunken head. So we never know what we're going to come across.
Right. Yes. Wow. That's definitely something to look into.
Yeah, or not.
Or not, right?
So really, we all have these items in our home, and you're like, well, what are they? What's it worth? What's it worth? And these are just a couple of key categories that we look at. Do we want to say hi to our member that's joined? Hello.
So we'll just go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
We all have, or many of us have, what we now call brown furniture. And this is that big, bulky furniture that we've collected over the years. It was always in style. Got passed around in families. Many of us have those types of pieces in our home. A lot of people collected Beanie Babies. It's a very common category that we come across. Glassware also. And Hummel. That's another very, very common collectible category that we come across. And so you have these items and you think they're worth a lot of money because they've been such a valued part of your family's history or your own history. But when we look into that and we do a little bit of research, we find that this big, beautiful armoire sold for only $50. This Beanie Baby, however, looks like it's sold for $8,300. And we'll talk a little bit more about the value on that particular Beanie Baby in a minute. This piece of beautiful glass, $300, that might be a bit more expected. And the Hummel's one was very high, the other one was very low. So we'll talk about why we see those discrepancies also in a minute. So we don't know the value of our items. We do a little research, we find out the value, and then we can make decisions on what we should do with those items. And I'm going to talk about that. So we're going to talk a bit about collecting. We're going to talk about what a collectible advisor is and how do you know if you should use a collectibles advisor. I think Tammy already knows when she should use one, but the rest of the audience may not. We know that what is collected, it's easy to identify, and most everybody has some type of collection in their home. A collection can be 2 or 3 items. Those are things that you value and that you sought out or that were given to you that you've hung on to. And coins, jewelry, glassware, art, those are things that are, very easily collected. But the why we collect is a lot more difficult. And I think, Tammy, you help a lot of people with their why when you're helping them to declutter and to organize. But sometimes it's just a hobby. Sometimes it's for decor. Sometimes it's a challenge, like the whole Beanie Baby rush when that was a thing. It was the challenge of finding that latest, greatest, the most recent edition. And sometimes it's the reward when you do find that thing that you just feel so happy and validated that it's been found. So, but it's a different reason for different people, and it also influences their ability to let go of that collection when it's time. These are some.
Can I ask you something here?
Yeah.
I have found that in working with my clients and that's so I appreciate you bringing that up. The reason why, for instance, the furniture, that was a massive piece of furniture, and I'm sure the owner paid very good money for that.
Yes.
And this is consistent with my clients. Well, I paid big bucks for that, and I should get at least $500 for it. Well, when you tell them that they're going to get $50, their immediate thought goes to, well, then it's just not worth it. I'll just keep it here.
Right.
So I think that's important to look at too.
Yeah, and and then you turn it back to the goal for the space. Is the goal to get rid of things, or is the goal to keep things? So
Exactly.
here's how you can get rid of it. And unfortunately, many times in that category of brand furniture, it's not even $50. It's you have to pay somebody to take it out of your home when you want to get rid of it, unfortunately. So and I think the Collectibles Advisor, I like to bring back to people, that analysis of here's what it's worth, here's what you could get for it in particular situations, whether it be auction or eBay or marketplace or whatever, and then you decide, is it worth that trip or not? Do we just have somebody come in and haul it out? It just really depends on the circumstances, as you know. So
Okay.
but there are all kinds of collections. This particular gentleman collects naval lint. Unfortunately, that has no value on the open market, but he collects naval lint. I think that's interesting.
Very interesting.
The kind of behind the why, I don't want to know why behind that one. This woman has thousands of chicken items, magnets and decor, Coca-Cola cans. These pictures aren't really great. This woman has a large collection of umbrellas. It just goes on and on. This gentleman has, well, I can't see. Oh, he has hands. I don't know. I just don't understand some of these collections. But everybody thinks their collections are valuable, and some of them are. And that's why I'm here to help with that. This woman collects Pokemon items.
Have you
So,
across, other than like the skull, I thought that was very unusual. What have you
yeah.
come across? What item is the most unusual?
Oh, I should have anticipated you asking me that question. Actually, for me, the most unusual item was an anvil,
Oh,
an iron anvil that was at the bottom. The woman had forgotten she had it and found this anvil. And that was a tough one to research because there's not a huge market for anvils. And I'll talk about that in just a minute on why something is easily sold or easily marketed to be sold across different selling platforms and why it might not be. Okay, and an anvil is a good example of that. So, so what about our stuff? What about my stuff? What do you got for me, Debbie? Well, if your goal might be to, clear your space of the unneeded, the stuff you don't want anymore because you're moving or you're downsizing, or you just want to bring peace to your home. That's a big one for a lot of people. So you have an organizer, or you're on that path to clearing things out, and you get to the collectibles, the things that you are having trouble letting go of because it's something you've spent a lot of money or time or energy or inherited, a lot of different reasons why they're in your home, but they're tough for you to let go. So this is where I wanted to help you to first understand what impacts the value. Whatever collection you have, if it's Pokemon, if it's glassware, china, really the first thing to look at is its condition. Most items, if you're wanting to sell them and they are collectible and they are in demand, it's all about condition, just like real estate. Location, 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 condition, condition, condition. If you have the most wonderful Louis Vuitton vintage bag, it's going to be a tough sell if it's in rough condition. So that's a key thing. Then, of course, there's the rarity. How common is the item or not? Trends are a big one. Right now, there's some Corningware, Pyrex like Corningware dishes that are very collectible. It's a trend item right now, and those things come and go. The other thing is ease of transport, like the anvil. So the anvil's a little tough to ship across the country to that guy in California that, collects anvils, right? So ease of transport is a big one. If it's a very large item, that can impact its value because it's just not easy to get it to the person that might want to buy it. And then, of course, who is buying? So that very much impacts the value. If you have an item that there's just a very small market of people that want it, and they're across the country, or just like, or an antique dealer. If you have an antique dealer come in to buy out your house, that's a great avenue for a lot of people. However, they don't want to pay much because they have to do all the work to get it out of your house, get it into their shop, mark, tag it and resell it. So, but it is an avenue, and it's a worthy one to consider depending on the situation. So who is buying it is a big thing. If you are selling yourself on eBay, you've got a group of people that are in competition for your item or on an auction site. So that helps to bring your value up versus selling it to a reseller. So that's a big part of it. So understanding those kinds of things can also help you to get your mind around, what are my things worth? And so before you really do anything, you probably want to understand, some people want to understand their value themselves. You don't have to call a collectibles advisor. You can get on eBay, you can search for Hummels, and I'll show you on the next page the key thing you want to click on when you're in eBay, but it will tell you what these Hummels have, these types of Hummels have sold for in the most recent 30, 60, 90 days, I believe. So that's just a little quickie way to kind of see is my collectible worth anything. If you have Waterford crystal, that's another thing you can get on eBay and see what it's selling for, and you might be surprised at the value that you find there. I think another common thing that a lot of people have are Yadro, and those the ones that are much more detailed and have more figures in them, such as the ones we see here on the right, they are definitely hold their value. The single statues with the mother and the child and all of that, those are no longer in high demand. But I think I showed you the Beanie Baby with the $8,300 price tag. That's a watch out. That's a I don't want to say a scam, but it's money laundering, I believe. People post some items like that, and then like their friend buys it for $8,000, and they launder money through the eBay site, and yeah. So anything you search for, and if you sort it by highest price sold or highest price first, you'll see $10,000, $8,000, these crazy amounts, and that's money laundering. So just skip past those, and you'll start to see things of a more similar value for whatever item it is.
Wow.
So this is great. So when you are on eBay and trying to just get a snapshot of what your items could be worth, the thing you want to do is you want to look for what the item sold for. A lot of buy it now prices will be out there, and they'll be crazy all over the board, but what it actually sold for is what the market will bear for that item. So that's the trick. And even when you look at auction sites, you always want to see what things sold for, because that's the reality of your item, not what it's listed for, not what somebody else wants for it. It's what you actually get for it, or somebody else has gotten for it. So also you want to see that if there's lots of listings of a similar item as yours, that usually means it's not selling. It's flooded, right? And we see that a lot with the Hummel and the Yadro and some of those more common glassware, ceramicware.
Debbie, how much time can you expect? Like if someone were to go on eBay and just kind of look for themselves, how much time would you expect to spend researching something like this?
Well, if you're like me, I like to get down that rabbit hole because I find it also fascinating. But a normal person can jump on there, and it's a couple of minutes. And sometimes it's a couple of minutes for me. So Tammy, when you call me with a client, man, I can just jump on there and I can get a good feel, right? So I would never answer based on one, or if there is one example of something that somebody's asking me about, I'll say, I only have one example that sold recently, and here was the price. But again, it's one is not statistically as relevant as 5 or 6, which is more typical.
Okay.
And again, it just depends on the category.
Depends on the category.
So, yeah. But so what is a collectibles advisor? What am I? So I'm a professional that I like to think that I possess the knowledge, the contacts and resources to help you identify the value of your collectibles, and then advise you on the best options to sell them. And when I say contacts and resources, that just means in the Dallas area, I've started to build quite a black book of people that I can contact to help
Hi, honey.
understand value or to
Oh, wait till you
help
hear
sell.
what I did. Just a second. I'm watching a video of
And then, of course, the resources I talked about that the Keys Guild provides me that help also to understand value and those places to sell. How you know you should use the Collectibles Advisor? Well, if there's a real or even a perceived value in your items, that's a good time to call, and you no longer want to have your collection, right? So you're ready to move it on, you're ready to sell it. That's another key time to call. And you don't know of any resources to help you move your collectibles along. A lot of people know estate sale people. They're kind of like real estate agents. There are a lot of estate sale people out there and within our neighborhoods and whatnot. So a lot of people know them. They can call as a resource, or they know somebody that has an antique booth, or just in your realm of friends, you usually know somebody. But if you don't, then that's a good time to reach out to Collectibles Advisor.
So Debbie, let me ask you another question.
Sure.
What is considered a collection? Is there like a certain number of items, or?
No, it can be one item, like this middle piece of furniture in the middle. That was actually a friend of mine's, and she was remodeling her house. She had a piece of brown furniture, and she called me to ask me if I could help her get it out of her house for money. And I took a deep breath, because it's hard to tell your friend that her beautiful item that I know she paid in the thousands for it about 30 years ago. And it was probably about 27 years ago. And I have to tell her that she's going to get $100 for that. And that's exactly what she got. And I'm going to show you in a second. But yeah, it can be one item. We say collectibles. I don't want it's easier to say than a one item advisor. A Collectibles Advisor has a little nicer ring to it. But yeah, it can be just one item. It can be, yeah. This gentleman on the left had a Star Wars toy collection, and that was actually one of my organizing clients. And so I got on eBay and I gave him the sold comps for those items, and he opted to hang on to them because he thinks they're gonna go big, and he can hang on to them and wait and see if that actually happens.
What are the chances of that actually happening?
I think it would be a very, very, very long time. And his boxes are a little bit worn because he's moved them so much. So their boxes are no longer pristine. And there's also, these are very, very common items. See the Toys R Us sticker on that box? That's a very, very common toy. So it's not rare.
It's not rare.
Yeah.
I wonder, because I too have clients that have rooms full of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And they tell me that they want to keep them. They want to hang on to it because someday they're going to make a boatload of money.
Yeah. Well, let me know when they do. I think we're getting low on time, but I just wanted to show you this this furniture in the middle. The gentleman that bought it actually has a shop. He paid, I think, $200 for that piece. And you see on the right is what he did with it. He tried to lighten it up a bit. He took the top doors on the top and moved them to the bottom, and then put glass in the top to kind of give it a little more of an updated, lighter feel. So it wasn't quite so heavy and brown. So so the process is really simple. Usually people send me photos. We talk about the items. We make sure everything is included. Oftentimes when I do go to somebody's home, we find many other items that they hadn't thought about, especially coins and gold and silver. People think that just, the china, the glassware, the yadro are the collectibles, but gold and silver and coins are often in a drawer forgotten about. And so when we really start to dig, we find other items. I'll come back, I do my research, and then I provide my recommendations and give you the knowledge to decide what next steps you want to take. So it's easy. A photo goes a long way, and it's free. So it's a good way to get things rolling. And I feel like the biggest thing I provide is really just peace of mind to let you know that the item is not worth anything, and you can just donate it. You can just let it go. And you don't have to worry about getting taken advantage of. If you do have very valuable items, I'll send you the fact-based things that I have found to back up what I believe those prices are. And if somebody else comes in and offers you, pennies on the dollar of what we think it's worth, that you should demand more and find another avenue probably. And you can confidently move on with your next steps, whether it's to sell those items or to let them go, through either giving them to a friend, a family member, or donating them. So there's lots of different avenues. It just depends on the item, on what to do next. And it's all just based on what we find the value of those items are. We talked about the antiques dealer, there's eBay, there's auctions, there's estate sales, and of course the donation. Those are all avenues that likely will be one that you will take with those items. But ultimately, it's you that benefit. The client maintain control of the situation. I'm just giving advice. You can have confidence in that it's fact-based information, and you can reduce regrets by having this knowledge. The only time I do buy gold and silver, I buy coins, I buy a few tiny little things like that, but it's mainly the gold and silver that I do buy. The rest of it, I help you find the proper auction house, the proper reseller, the proper thing that should be the next steps for that item. I just advise you on that and can make those connections. I have those resources. And you can make money or free yourself for the next phase.
I like that. And I want to just repeat too what I said earlier, Debbie. I'm glad you put your number there. I have worked with Debbie on several occasions, and one in particular stands out. I was just in awe of her research and her knowledge. There was a room, like a living room, full of cameras, camera equipment, photography equipment, and I had absolutely no idea. So, here I called Debbie, and here she comes, and she assessed the entire, all the items, and found a seller for the client. And so worked out very well, very well. And the client was extremely satisfied with that.
Right.
So, well, yes, Debbie, thank you so much. We really appreciate this. I'm going to be posting this in the newsletter and also on YouTube, and I will send you the link to it, Debbie. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate in reaching out. You can ask Debbie for a consult. Her number is on the screen at 214-908-5070. Or if you want, you can contact me and I will connect you with Debbie. And of course, my information is 304-834-5678. And I am Tammy at The Organizer Coach. So you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Got the holidays coming up, and lots of meal prep for some people, and other people not so much. I'm just going to the store and buying some pies. And that'll be my contribution this year. So we will see you all next month in December, and we're going to be talking about how do we preserve our photo memories. So we're going to have a photo consultant live with us.
I'm joining that.
And talking about how and what memories how do we go about preserving this? So thank you again, Debbie. Really appreciate your time, and I'll be talking with you soon.
Great.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.